You probably picked up this book because shyness has held you back. Maybe it's kept you silent in conversations where you had something to say. Maybe it's made your heart pound at the thought of speaking up, meeting new people, or simply being seen. I know that feeling. I lived it for years. I was the kid who stayed in the background, the teenager who avoided eye contact, the adult who let opportunities slip through my fingers. I told myself I was just wired this way. That shyness was part of my DNA. But then something changed. I realized that shyness isn't a personality trait, it's a learned habit. And if it's learned, it can be unlearned. That's what this book is about. By the time you reach the last page, you won't just cope with shyness. You'll rewrite your entire relationship with confidence. You'll see social situations in a new light. You'll learn a formula to permanently shift your mindset, your emotions, and the way you interact with the world. This isn't theory. It's experience. It's science. It's what worked for me and what will work for you. If you're ready to let go of the old version of yourself and step into something bigger. This journey is deeply personal, and it's one I wish someone had given me years ago. That's why MindfulLiterary wrote and published The End of Shyness, to be the guide I once needed, and now, the one you have in your hands. Let's begin. Introduction. I used to be shy until I realized the truth. A raw, personal story of struggling with shyness, missed opportunities, social avoidance, and self-doubt. Every moment of social interaction felt like a tightrope walk perched high above uncertainty. The world around me thrived with laughter and connection, while I stood on the sidelines, grappling with the turbulence of my own mind. There were times I marveled at friends effortlessly engaging in conversation while I shuffled my feet or stared at the ground, wishing to shrink into the background. Missed opportunities marked my journey, each one a heavy reminder of my struggle. Invites to parties slipped through my fingers as anxiety gripped my heart. Meeting new people became an exercise in fear, as I often opted for solitude over the possibility of stammering through a conversation. The tight knot in my stomach would tighten even more when faced with the simplest of interactions, like ordering coffee or making small talk with coworkers. Each time I backed away, I felt a pang of regret, wondering about the friendships or experiences that could have brightened my days. Shyness crafted a barrier in my relationships that often seemed insurmountable. I found myself hovering on the edges of social circles, watching warmth and connection bloom between others while I stayed in the shadows, cloaked in self-doubt. Even when I longed to connect, the very thought of opening up felt like standing naked on a busy street. My career choices were heavily influenced by this internal struggle. Instead of pursuing roles that required public speaking or constant interaction, I sought refuge in positions that promised solitude. This avoidance came at a price, as I learned the hard way that opportunities often knock when we stand up and greet them with open arms. I was pushed to confront my self-doubt, and while the journey was rocky, I eventually realized that vulnerability held a unique power. By sharing my fears and shortcomings, I found authenticity that became the cornerstone of deeper relationships. The stories of others battling similar struggles reminded me that we are all grappling with our own insecurities, creating a silent bond one never knew existed. Finding confidence amidst shyness isn't a linear pathway. Growth comes from facing uncomfortable situations head-on, and each small interaction became a stepping stone in my journey. Embracing discomfort can create unimaginable possibilities. Stepping outside of your comfort zone, even just a little, opens doors not just to new relationships, but to the remarkable discovery of who you are when you allow yourself to be seen. The moment everything changed, realizing that shyness is not a fixed trait. It hit me one day, like a light bulb flickering to life in an otherwise dim room. My shyness was not a permanent part of who I was. I had spent so long viewing myself through that limiting lens, assuming it was an unalterable trait tattooed on my identity. I remember staring into the mirror, grappling with the notion that I could reshape how I approached life and my interactions. It was empowering, almost exhilarating, to understand that being shy was more about a mindset than an immutable characteristic. I began to realize that my words, or the lack thereof, didn't have to define me. I could break free from this cage of quietude. There was a world of conversation and connection waiting for me, and all I had to do was change my perspective. This newfound understanding ignited something within me. Suddenly, shyness transformed from a debilitating label to a challenge I was ready to conquer. I began to approach social situations as opportunities rather than threats. Each encounter became a chance to practice, to engage, and to learn about myself and others. With each small step, I felt my confidence growing. I remember striking up a conversation with a stranger in line at the coffee shop. I was surprised by how effortlessly words flowed once I allowed myself to be present in the moment. It felt liberating to express my thoughts, to connect with someone outside of my head. My heart raced, not from anxiety, but from the thrill of interaction. This shift in mindset didn't just change the way I viewed social settings. It reshaped my entire outlook on life. I learned that connection wasn't about being perfect or witty, but about being genuine and open. The journey had only just begun, but I was ready to embrace it. I carried a simple lesson with me. Every day was a chance to practice vulnerability and connection, and the only roadblock was the perception of my shyness. The next time you feel the familiar tug of shyness, remember that it's a mindset you can reshape. Challenge yourself to engage, even in small ways. Start with a smile or a simple hello. You might just find that the moment everything changed is waiting for you around the corner. By the end of this book, you won't just manage shyness, you'll destroy it. Imagine waking up one day and feeling a surge of confidence that carries you through every interaction, every meeting, every social event. This isn't just a fantasy. It can be your reality if you're willing to embark on this journey of self-discovery and transformation. Shyness is only a small part of your identity, a shadow that can be illuminated by the vibrant lights of your true self. I know it can feel overwhelming at times, but like peeling layers of an onion, I promise that with each page, you will uncover the essence of who you are, bursting with stories, opinions, and a voice that deserves to be heard. I invite you to take this brave step with me, to embrace the possibility of change while letting go of the doubts that tether you. Together, we will challenge the beliefs that have kept you silent and start building the momentum toward unshakable confidence. You might be wondering what the path ahead looks like. This is not a linear journey, but a roadmap tailored uniquely for you, filled with tools and strategies designed to rebuild your social skills and grounding confidence. We will explore the dynamics of different types of social situations, break down the fears that keep you from engaging genuinely, and practice the art of authentic conversation. It's crucial to understand that transformation doesn't happen overnight. Instead, it evolves through consistent effort and self-compassion. As we dive deeper into this exploration, you can expect practical exercises and real-world scenarios to help you cultivate the ability to contribute in conversations, navigate the social landscape with grace, and connect with others in a meaningful way. This journey is not just about overcoming shyness. It's about stepping into your power and flourishing in the lives of those around you. As we move forward, remember that this isn't solely about removing shyness. It's about welcoming a new way of being. Every step you take here will bring you closer to a version of yourself that you perhaps have not encountered yet. Embrace the excitement of the unknown and the possibility of the new. When you commit to this process, you will not only see your confidence rise, you will feel it. A practical tip to keep in mind: start by having small conversations with people you encounter throughout your day, whether it's the barista at your favorite coffee shop or a colleague in the elevator. Allow these brief interactions to build your comfort level in social settings, and watch how each small exchange lays the foundation for an extraordinary transformation. Chapter 1. Shyness is not who you are, it's who you learn to be. The biggest myth: I'm just a shy person. Many of us carry around the label of shy person as if it's an essential part of who we are. I used to think this way too, convinced that my shyness was a lifelong condition I had to accept. In reality, this belief is a myth that limits our potential for self-exploration. When we label ourselves as shy, we pin ourselves into a corner and convince ourselves there's no way out. Our minds start to believe that shyness is an unchangeable characteristic, just like having brown hair or being 6 feet tall. But let's be honest. Did anyone ever really tell us that we had to be shy? Or did we simply adopt this identity to make sense of our discomfort in social situations? I began to realize that shyness isn't an inherent trait, but a habit shaped by our experiences, fears, and beliefs. Diving deeper into this notion, I found that someone who identifies as shy often avoids certain situations, reinforcing their perceived identity. Think about it. When you shy away from speaking up in a meeting or mingling at a party, that decision doesn't just stem from being shy. It grows from a belief that you're not equipped to handle those situations. The more you avoid, the more you convince yourself that shyness is an innate part of your persona. What if instead we saw these moments not as reflections of who we are, but as opportunities to challenge that myth? By engaging with the world rather than retreating, we can slowly unravel the fabric of that belief, stitch by stitch, and discover a more vibrant version of ourselves. Shyness is often mistaken for an unchangeable trait, but what if we viewed it through a different lens, as merely a habit? I came to realize that habits can be changed, and like any other habit, shyness can be unlearned. Just imagine how liberating it feels to know that I have the choice to step into those uncomfortable situations instead of retreating. You see, I've spent so much time tiptoeing around that inner fear, but with each small action, saying hello to a stranger, voicing my opinion in a group, or even sharing a laugh, the more I chipped away at that habit. Each time I stepped out of my comfort zone, I found evidence that shyness was merely a behavioral pattern, not my permanent identity. When faced with a situation that intimidates you, take a deep breath, acknowledge the urge to shy away, and instead lean in. You might be surprised at how rewarding, dare I say exhilarating, those moments can be. Remember, the only thing standing between you and that confident version of yourself is the belief that shyness is inevitable. So let's confront that myth together and transform it into a stepping stone for growth. How shyness is programmed into us through childhood, environment, and habits. Many people might wonder why some of us are inherently shy while others seem to thrive in social situations. The roots of shyness often reach far back into childhood, where our early experiences shape our confidence and comfort in social settings. From an early age, we start picking up cues from our parents, teachers, and peers. Imagine walking into a kindergarten class full of new faces. For some kids, the buzz of laughter and chatter is infectious, while for others, it feels overwhelming. If we were raised in an environment where expressing ourselves was discouraged, or if our attempts at social interaction were met with criticism, it's no wonder we carry that trepidation into adulthood. I often think back to my own childhood, recalling moments where I hesitated to speak up in class, fearing ridicule or rejection. This kind of conditioning subtly reinforces the belief that it's safer to stay quiet, which can follow us like a shadow throughout our lives. The environment we grow up in plays a crucial role in shaping our behavior and thoughts, particularly regarding social interactions. Take a moment to consider your own surroundings growing up. If you were surrounded by warm, inviting relatives who encouraged open dialogue, you might have developed a sense of safety in social situations. On the flip side, an environment marked by criticism, rigidity, or even overprotection can foster insecurities. Many of us may realize years later that we have built barriers around ourselves, not even recognizing the gentle but unmistakable ways our environment has influenced us. The friends we choose, the communities we participate in, and even the media we consume can reinforce the idea that expressing ourselves is fraught with danger. This reinforcement becomes a habit, and soon we find ourselves stuck in a cycle of avoidance, convinced that it's easier to blend in than to stand out. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward breaking free. It's enlightening to be aware of the programmable nature of our behavior. Shyness can feel like an insurmountable wall, but understanding its origins allows us to dismantle it brick by brick. One practical tip I have found helpful is to start small. Engage in low-pressure social interactions, possibly even with strangers. This could be as simple as smiling at someone in the grocery store or striking up a brief conversation with a colleague. Each small victory builds confidence and can help shift the narrative we've internalized over the years. Embrace the discomfort, knowing that every step you take contributes to rewiring your perception of social interactions. The first major shift: your identity is flexible, and you can rewrite it. Your identity is not a rigid structure. It's more like a work of art that is constantly being painted, reshaped, and refined. I've learned that my identity can evolve with intention, much like a character in a novel who grows, shifts, and adapts through different experiences. This realization first hit me on a particularly ordinary day, where I found myself reflecting on who I was versus who I wanted to be. Often, we box ourselves into labels: mother, employee, artist, and forget that we are so much more than those titles. Embracing the idea of a dynamic identity is freeing. It encourages us to explore new roles, develop new passions, and redefine our values without the constraints of past expectations. The journey to reshaping your identity begins with a simple yet powerful decision: to see yourself in a new light. It might involve rewriting the script of your life. One practical technique is to engage in regular self-reflection. Set aside some time each week to write down your thoughts, aspirations, and the qualities you admire in others. By consciously exploring these elements, you start to notice patterns in how you want to present yourself to the world. Another technique is visualization. Picture the person you want to become, feel that identity in your bones, and let it guide your daily choices. Surrounding yourself with positive affirmations and individuals who embody the qualities you wish to develop further accelerates this transformation. With each small step, the image of who you want to be becomes clearer, and that identity begins to solidify. Chapter 2. The Fear Loop: Why You Freeze Up in Social Situations. The real reason social situations feel terrifying: your brain misinterprets them as threats. The brain's threat detection system is like an overzealous security guard at a nightclub, constantly on the lookout for any signs of trouble. This system, known as the amygdala, zooms in on potential threats and often reacts before we even consciously realize it. When we enter a social situation, the amygdala gets to work, interpreting various cues in the environment, facial expressions, tone of voice, and body language. If it detects something even slightly off, it can trigger a fight or flight response. Suddenly, a simple gathering feels like being thrown into the ring with a lion. My own experiences echo this. When I walk into a party, I often feel a surge of anxiety, my heart racing at just the thought of making small talk or the fear of awkward silence. This misinterpretation fuels a cycle of fear and avoidance. The brain jumps to conclusions, and those conclusions become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When I feel that initial anxiety, I often choose to withdraw from social situations to escape the discomfort. Ignoring invitations or finding excuses becomes a familiar pattern, reinforcing the idea that social interactions are dangerous. The more I avoid these situations, the more my mind processes them as threatening, leading to even higher levels of anxiety the next time around. It's a bit of a vicious cycle, isn't it? This experience isn't unique to me. Many people find themselves caught in this loop, where the fear grows stronger every time we dodge a social engagement. How the fight-flight-freeze system hijacks your confidence. When I reflect on my own experiences in stressful social situations, I can't help but notice the physiological reactions that unfold within my body. The moment I step into a crowded room or find myself at a dinner party full of unfamiliar faces, my heart seems to leap into my throat. Adrenaline surges through my veins, my palms grow clammy, and I can almost hear the beating of my heart echoing in my ears. This whirlwind of sensations is my body's instinctive response, often referred to as the fight-flight-freeze system. It's that primal part of us, inherited from our ancestors, designed to protect us from danger. But what happens when those dangers are merely social unease? Instead of preparing to face a bear or flee from a predator, I find myself facing the much subtler threat of judgment, rejection, or awkwardness. These are the real-life circumstances that can hijack my confidence, turning me into a very different person than I know myself to be. As I navigate this tense landscape, I realize that one of the most perplexing aspects of the freeze response is how insidiously it can creep in. I often catch myself zoning out during conversations, my thoughts retreating into a fog as I become acutely aware of every single possible mistake I might make. It's as if my brain has pressed the pause button, and I'm stuck in this eerie limbo where I can't connect with others or express myself authentically. Recognizing these signs of the freeze response is crucial, not just for understanding what's happening to me, but for regaining that confidence that feels like it's slipped away. Symptoms can range from feeling detached and numb to an overwhelming sense of self-doubt that makes it tough to engage with anyone. In those moments, I've discovered that I'm not alone. Many people experience this dissociation, which can lead to a cycle where the more I freeze, the more disconnected I feel, leaving a sharp dent in my confidence. One practical approach to combat this is to give myself permission to feel those initial waves of discomfort without judgment. Accepting this visceral reaction lets me reassess the situation rather than be caught in paralysis. A focused breath or a few grounding exercises can quickly bring me back, allowing me to reconnect with my body and, in turn, with the people around me. Utilizing grounding techniques helps me feel less like a deer caught in headlights and more like the person I know I am. Each time I consciously acknowledge these responses while reclaiming my sense of self in social scenarios, I rebuild that confidence little by little. It's not about erasing the fight-flight-freeze response. It's about learning to dance with it, letting my innate confidence shine even amidst the chaos. A personal story: the time I completely froze in front of an audience, and how I reversed the fear cycle. There was a day that stands out clearly in my memory, a day when I completely froze in front of an audience. It was during a workshop I was supposed to lead, a mix of excitement and nerves buzzing in the air. As I stepped up to the podium, my mind went blank. Faces turned toward me, eager for insight, and my thoughts scattered like leaves in a storm. I could feel my heart racing, and an overwhelming wave of self-doubt crashed over me. In that pivotal moment, I was paralyzed, and all I could hear was the deafening silence in my head. I remember the faces staring back, some filled with confusion, others with gentle encouragement. But all I could think was, this is it. I am failing. Breaking free from that paralyzing experience took more than just deep breaths. It required a shift in my mindset and practical actions. After what felt like an eternity of frozen silence, I invoked a little trick I had learned. I acknowledged my fear out loud. I am feeling a bit overwhelmed right now, I said, allowing the audience and myself to breathe again. That simple admission lifted a weight off my shoulders. Instead of fighting against the fear, I decided to embrace it. I broke the fear cycle by sharing my vulnerability, turning my freeze into a moment of connection instead of shame. From there, I began to engage with the crowd more actively, using storytelling to draw them in. I paced the stage, made eye contact, and invited laughter. By the end, what started as a panic attack became a memorable experience, not just for them, but for me too. This taught me that vulnerability doesn't signify weakness. Instead, it can foster deeper connections and shared experiences. Remember, everyone experiences moments of fear and self-doubt, especially in high-pressure situations. One practical strategy is to embrace vulnerability by sharing your apprehensions. It breaks the cycle of fear and creates a safe space for authenticity. Next time you feel that chilling freeze, don't resist it. Voice it, engage your audience, and let that moment transform into a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. After all, it's often our most challenging experiences that shape us into stronger versions of ourselves. Chapter 3. The Inner Critic. Your shyness is an echo of your own thoughts. Why self-talk creates your experience of shyness. Our internal dialogue plays a significant role in how we perceive social situations. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, what if they don't like me? Or I'm going to embarrass myself? These thoughts can elevate anxiety and make us feel small in social settings. It's fascinating how conversations with ourselves can shape our experiences so dramatically. Each time I found myself in a crowded room, my mind would spiral through a rapid-fire sequence of, "You have nothing interesting to say," or "Everyone is judging you," effectively solidifying my feelings of shyness. I noticed that this internal chatter distorted my reality, turning what should have been friendly interactions into daunting challenges. The connection between negative self-talk and feelings of shyness is rather striking. When I repeat negative affirmations, it's like handing myself a ticket to social withdrawal. Instead of engaging, I'd shrink into the background, consumed by thoughts of inadequacy. This loop of negativity kept me from experiencing the joy and connection that often come from socializing. Each time I hesitated to speak, the internal monologue grew louder, reinforcing that shyness was not just a feeling, it was a self-inflicted label. It's as if I had a well-rehearsed mental script guiding my actions, a script that led to missed opportunities for connection and laughter. The mirror effect. How people react to the energy you give off. How often do you find yourself in a space, feeling unsure of yourself, only to notice others responding to you in kind? This phenomenon is no accident. Our self-perception acts like a magnetic force, drawing in reactions that often mirror our own internal dialogue. When I first grasped this, it was like a light bulb flicked on. The way I viewed myself, whether with confidence or insecurity, directly shaped how others interacted with me. If I entered a room feeling anxious, I could sense others becoming distant or closing off. But when I approached a situation with a positive mindset, it was as if the people's energies around me shifted too, becoming more open and engaging. It's an intricate dance, this feedback loop of energy, where you give off vibrations that others pick up on and respond to. Understanding this gives you immense power. Recognizing that my own thoughts and feelings colored the world around me made me reflect on what kind of energy I wanted to transmit. Once I realized the impact of my self-perception, I began experimenting with my energy levels. I started small, practicing a simple smile in the mirror each morning. Gradually, I learned to infuse my presence with warmth and openness. This wasn't merely about projecting happiness. It was about radiating an invitation for connection. People seem to respond more positively when you embody the energy of approachability and positivity. I noticed it in conversations, too. When I asked open-ended questions and made eye contact, others would often light up, eager to share and engage. Each interaction became an opportunity to cultivate not just my personal presence, but to uplift those around me as well. It's empowering to realize that you hold the keys to fostering connection, not just for yourself, but as a ripple effect that touches others. How I stopped overanalyzing every conversation and started feeling free. Shifting my focus from criticism to connection began when I realized how often I was dissecting every word spoken to me. The moment a conversation ended, I'd replay it over and over in my mind, searching for hidden meanings or judgments. This habit not only drained my energy, but also stifled genuine connections with others. It took a conscious effort to change this pattern. First, I started practicing mindfulness during conversations. Instead of thinking ahead about how I would respond, I'd genuinely listen. By tuning into the speaker's words and emotions, I found myself less worried about my own performance and more invested in the authenticity of the exchange. I also began to take a step back and remind myself that not every comment was a subtle critique aimed at me. This realization helped me shift from a defensive mindset to one of openness and vulnerability. Embracing the spontaneity of conversations was another pivotal moment in my journey. I discovered that many amazing things occur when you let go of the fear of judgment and just speak. It became clear that conversations are not rehearsed performances. They're more like jazz improvisations where the beauty lies in unexpected notes. As I let go of my fear and started to approach dialogues with curiosity rather than caution, I found that deeper connections organically blossomed. When I let myself react in the moment, I not only felt a rush of freedom, but also connected with others in ways I had never experienced before. The usual back and forth became a delightful dance, filled with laughter and shared stories. Every blunder became a shared joke rather than a source of embarrassment. Understanding that not every interaction needs to be perfect allowed me to appreciate the beauty of imperfection in conversations. So, the next time you find yourself caught in the web of overanalysis, try taking a deep breath and remind yourself that connection is often found in those unplanned moments. Embrace the spontaneity of each conversation, let your guard down, and allow yourself to be surprised by where a simple chat can lead. You might just discover the freedom and joy of genuine connection. Chapter 4. Shift your identity, reprogramming your self-image. The identity upgrade method. Stop saying, "I'm shy," and start rewriting your inner narrative. Upgrading your identity is not just a buzzword. It's a transformative process that allows you to step into a version of yourself that you've always dreamed of being. When I first started this journey, I realized how often I referred to myself as shy. It was like wearing a heavy coat that weighed me down. I felt trapped by that label, believing it defined me completely. Understanding that our identity is not fixed, but can be reshaped was crucial to my growth. Identity upgrading is about recognizing that the story we tell ourselves is just that, a story, and we have the power to revise it. Embracing this concept is essential for personal growth because it opens doors to new opportunities and experiences that might have previously felt out of reach. By rewiring how we see ourselves, we can break free from limiting beliefs and step confidently into new situations. With this understanding, I learned that every time I said, "I'm shy," I was reinforcing a reality that confined me. So, I began to explore how to rewrite that narrative. This journey starts with acknowledging that we are not defined by our past behaviors or beliefs. It requires an intentional shift in perspective, allowing us to see ourselves through the lens of possibility rather than limitation. When we upgrade our identity, we create a fertile ground for growth, enabling us to cultivate new skills and more fulfilling relationships. Remember, your identity is like clay. It's malleable, waiting for you to mold it into something beautiful with each choice you make. Changing your narrative from shy to confident doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with small, deliberate actions. One technique that worked wonders for me was visualizing my ideal self. I began to picture moments where I felt confident, whether it was speaking at an event or engaging in a robust conversation. Visualization creates a blueprint in your mind, helping to bridge the gap between who you think you are and who you want to be. Alongside this, affirmations became my daily practice. I would look in the mirror and confidently declare phrases like, "I am outgoing," or "I thrive in social situations." Hearing these words come from my own mouth shifted my mindset over time. They acted like seeds planted in my subconscious, gradually changing my self-perception. Another powerful tool is the technique of micro-challenges. Start small by placing yourself in slightly uncomfortable situations that push the boundaries of your comfort zone. For instance, it could be as simple as striking up a conversation with a stranger or participating in a group discussion. Each small victory builds momentum and reinforces your new identity. Over time, with consistent effort, you will find that the label shy begins to fade away, replaced by a sense of confidence and self-assurance. Surrounding yourself with positive influences and supportive people can accelerate this process. Engage with those who uplift and inspire you and observe how their confidence can become contagious. With continual practice and perseverance, your inner narrative will transform, propelling you toward a bolder, more confident version of yourself. To further support this journey, keep a journal to document your experiences, feelings, and the changes you notice in your behavior. Reflecting on your growth will reinforce your new narrative and motivate you to keep pushing forward. Identity upgrading is an adventure, one that begins with embracing who you can become. The science of self-concept, how small identity shifts create permanent confidence. Understanding self-concept is like peering into a complex but fascinating mirror. It's not just how you see yourself. It's a powerful lens that shapes your behavior and ultimately your life. The psychology behind self-concept suggests that our beliefs about ourselves influence our emotions and actions. For example, if you see yourself as a shy person, that identity can create a cycle of behavior that reinforces your shyness, avoiding social situations and missing opportunities. Even subtle shifts in self-perception can dramatically alter how you interact with the world. When you start to believe you are someone who can engage confidently, those small changes ripple outward into your actions and choices, fostering new habits that pull you toward this new self-image. It's exciting to think that our perceptions are not set in stone. They can be molded and reshaped with intentional thought. Real-life examples abound where small identity shifts led to newfound confidence and social ease. Take, for instance, a close friend of mine who always considered herself the quiet one in any group. She would often hang back and let others carry the conversation, grappling with a belief that her voice didn't matter. One day, she decided to approach social interactions differently. She adopted the identity of a curious learner. Just by telling herself she was there to learn, she began asking questions and engaging others instead of waiting for them to notice her. Over weeks, this small change created a new reality for her. She found herself genuinely interested in others, and her confidence blossomed as she realized people replied positively to her inquiries. Each interaction built upon the last, reinforcing her new identity and shoving the old quiet one narrative aside. The takeaway here is to recognize that even the smallest changes in how we identify ourselves can lead to lasting shifts in our confidence and interactions. Challenge those inner voices that tell you who you are. Experiment with adopting a new label, perhaps the adventurous one or the friendly connector, and see how it affects your behavior. You may surprise yourself with how quickly this can lead to surprising social ease and confidence. Every moment is an opportunity to redefine who you are and how you relate to the world. So take a step forward and embrace your potential for transformation. How I went from "I hope they like me" to "I like myself," and I let people see it. There was a time in my life when my self-worth hinged on what others thought of me. I remember standing in small gatherings, my heart racing, all too often thinking, "I hope they like me." I dressed a certain way, laughed at jokes that weren't funny, and often silenced my own opinions, all in the name of making a good impression. I recall one particular moment at a friend's party. It was lively, filled with animated conversations and laughter, but I felt like a spectator in my own life. As I leaned against the wall, I watched everyone else connect and engage with ease. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. While I was busy trying to fit in, I was losing sight of who I really was. It was in that moment, amidst swirling drinks and chatter, that I promised myself I would one day transform that nagging doubt into self-love. It didn't happen overnight. The journey from seeking external validation to embracing my own voice was both arduous and liberating. I began to reflect on moments when I felt genuine happiness, not when I was trying to impress someone else, but during those fleeting instances when I truly lived authentically. I remember a day at the park where I laughed out loud at a silly joke made by a stranger while waiting for the bus. That laughter wasn't about approval, it was pure joy. Gradually, I realized that my self-worth didn't need a pep squad. It was a gradual shift from whispering, "I hope they like me," to confidently stating, "I like myself and I'm okay with being seen." Each time I prioritized my own feelings and opinions, the weight of needing others' approval lifted a little more, revealing a more vibrant, true version of myself. The process of building a solid internal foundation is essential for those ready to embrace their authentic selves. It starts with a commitment to self-acceptance. I found that journaling was invaluable in nurturing that internal dialogue. Writing about my feelings without editing them for others opened pathways to understanding my desires and fears. I learned to ask myself probing questions daily. What do I enjoy? What makes me feel alive? Each answer built upon the last, creating a sense of clarity about who I really was beyond society's expectations. Practicing self-compassion was equally transformative. Instead of criticizing myself for every flaw or misstep, I learned to treat myself with kindness. Redirecting negative thoughts became a practice of acknowledging them without letting them define me. Engaging in activities that resonate with my true self formed connections with others who share similar values and interests. I started attending workshops that focused on self-growth and exploration, surrounded by a community that encouraged authenticity. These experiences reinforced the importance of being open with others. Authentic relationships are built on honesty, and when I began to share parts of myself without fear of judgment, I found that the connections I created were exponentially deeper and far more fulfilling. One important lesson that stuck with me during this journey was that vulnerability is not a weakness. It is, in fact, a strength that fosters genuine human connection. I learned that every experience, even the messy ones, contributes to my story, and that is something worth sharing. A practical tip for anyone looking to step into their authentic selves is to engage in solo activities that excite you. Whether it's painting, hiking, or reading, allow those moments of solitude to build a relationship with yourself. The more you invest time in discovering your passions, the more comfortable you'll feel being seen for who you are. Chapter 5. Hack your fear response, rewiring your nervous system. Why exposure therapy alone doesn't work. You need to train a new emotional response to social situations. Exposure therapy has been a go-to for individuals grappling with anxiety, especially when it comes to social situations. The idea behind it is simple. If you're afraid of something, the best way to tackle that fear is to face it head-on. While this method can introduce you to the situations that make you uncomfortable, it often falls short in addressing one crucial element: your emotional response. Sure, you might find yourself in a crowded room after repeated exposure to similar environments, but if your internal state remains one of panic or dread, it doesn't really count as progress. I learned this the hard way, investing countless hours into exposure exercises only to find myself feeling just as anxious in social situations as before. The truth is, facing your fear isn't enough. It's about what you feel during and after that exposure. If the emotional response hasn't changed, you may find yourself right back at square one. Now, imagine entering that crowded room not just without fear, but with a sense of calm and confidence. To achieve a shift in your emotional response, it's essential to incorporate new methods that condition a positive state of mind alongside your exposure. One approach I found particularly effective involves mindfulness and visualization techniques. By doing this, you allow yourself to visualize the social situation while simultaneously training your brain to respond with relaxation instead of tension. When you imagine yourself engaged in a conversation, for instance, picture the scenario not just in vivid detail, but also connect it to feelings of joy, warmth, and acceptance. Practice this in your daily life, making it a habit to step into those imagined interactions with a positive emotional framework. Over time, these positive associations can overwrite your previous fearful responses. Combining these methods with effective breathing techniques can also be a game changer. When you step into challenging social situations, take a moment to focus on your breath. Deep, intentional breathing can ground you and clear the fog of anxiety. With enough repetition, your brain begins to adapt and learn that social interactions don't have to be frightening. You'll notice that your body and mind start to work together, allowing you to navigate those situations with newfound ease. This method, training a new emotional response, primes you not only to endure confrontations with fear, but to embrace them with a sense of empowerment and, crucially, joy. Remember, it's not just about showing up. It's about showing up as a version of yourself that you can be proud of, one that thrives in social spaces. The anti-fear exercise that trains your brain to stay calm under pressure. One powerful exercise that stood out to me when I first encountered it is designed to disrupt the fear response that often grips us in stressful situations. It's quite simple, yet remarkably effective. Picture this. When a wave of fear washes over you, your body reacts in instinctive ways. Heart racing, palms sweating, thoughts spiraling. This exercise disrupts that cycle. You can start by taking a deep breath, a full inhale that fills your lungs and expands your chest, and then slowly release it, letting your shoulders drop. This momentary pause serves as a gentle alarm bell, bringing your attention to the present moment. As you exhale, visualize the fear dissipating like mist in the morning sun. The beauty of this practice lies in its availability. You can do it anywhere, anytime. The more you integrate this technique into your daily routine, before a meeting, while driving, or even at home during a quiet moment, the more you'll train your brain to recognize that fear can be managed, not just endured. Consistent practice is key to rewiring your nervous system for confidence. I started dedicating just a few minutes each day to this exercise, specifically at times when I felt anxious or overwhelmed. Over time, I noticed a shift in my mindset. Instead of defaulting to fear, my brain became accustomed to ascribing a different meaning to those challenging situations. I learned to see pressure not as a threat, but as an opportunity to rise above and shine. Integrating techniques like visualization, a mental rehearsal of facing that fear and succeeding, made this process even more transformative. By visualizing myself handling various stressful situations with grace, I built neural pathways that reinforced a calmer approach to pressure. Remember, the brain is incredibly adaptive. Like any muscle, it strengthens with use. So, the more you practice this exercise, the more solid your foundation of calmness under pressure becomes. Practicing these techniques not only helps in building calmness, but also fosters resilience over time. Set small, achievable goals. Perhaps you might want to incorporate your anti-fear exercise every morning before your day begins or after every stressful encounter. Maybe create a special space in your day dedicated to mental training, just a few minutes to breathe and reset. This can become your refuge, a place where you reclaim your power against fear. Think of it like sharpening your tools. The more you hone this skill, the more equipped you'll be to handle the storms that come your way. Embrace the journey of self-discovery through this exercise, and you might just find that the calm and confidence you cultivate today will become second nature in the face of any challenge. The time I forced myself to talk to strangers every day, and how it rewired my brain. Initiating conversations with strangers was something I had always struggled with. The thought of walking up to someone I didn't know and striking up a chat would send a wave of anxiety crashing over me. However, I decided to challenge myself. Each day, I forced myself to engage with someone new, whether it was the barista at my local coffee shop or a fellow commuter on the bus. At first, this practice was nerve-wracking. My mind would race with insecurities, and I constantly second-guessed my ability to hold a meaningful dialogue. But with each interaction, a surprising shift began to happen within me. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, I started to notice a strange yet reassuring sense of ease settling over me. What initially felt like a chore slowly morphed into an intriguing adventure. I began to realize that by challenging myself to speak with strangers, I was opening up new avenues for self-discovery, forcing my brain to adapt in ways I had never anticipated. As days turned into weeks, the breakthroughs were undeniable. I found that I was no longer affected by the jitters that once held me captive. Each conversation felt like a small triumph. I could sense my confidence blossoming, and I relished the thrill that came from connecting with new people. It was fascinating to hear different stories, perspectives, and even life lessons from total strangers. With every successful interaction, my brain was literally rewiring itself. My comfort zone was expanding. I learned to listen attentively and respond genuinely, fostering real connections. This unexpected practice not only boosted my communication skills, but also enriched my understanding of human connection. I became adept at reading body language and understanding social cues, which further fueled my desire to engage. It was as if I had unlocked a hidden door to a vibrant world where each stranger had a story, each encounter a lesson. The remarkable part of this transformation was not just about overcoming my fear. It was about the joy I discovered in everyday interactions. Each conversation became a treasure trove of insights, laughter, and sometimes even a touch of vulnerability. By putting myself out there every day, I fortified a sense of belonging to the world around me. If you're looking to shift your own mindset and enhance your social skills, I recommend setting a similar challenge for yourself. Start small, perhaps just one conversation a day. You might be surprised by how transformative these encounters can be. Push past the discomfort. The rewards often lie just on the other side of fear. Chapter 6. Why? Yield to connection, turning social anxiety into social flow. The outward focus method. How to stop overthinking and make socializing effortless. The outward focus method is all about shifting your attention away from that pesky self-judgment that often clouds our social interactions. When I first stumbled upon this technique, I realized that the endless spiral of overthinking didn't just make me anxious. It made me completely miss out on the moment. The idea is simple. Instead of fixating on how you might appear to others or worrying about saying the wrong thing, you turn your gaze outward. Instead of focusing on your own internal dialogue, pay attention to the people around you. Listen actively to what others are saying, notice their body language, and respond to their needs in the conversation. This not only allows you to be fully present, but also makes socializing feel more natural and effortless. Consider a recent gathering I attended. I was initially overwhelmed by thoughts like, what if I don't know anyone? Or will they think I'm boring? But as soon as I focused outward, taking in the laughter and warmth of the crowd, everything shifted. I engaged with a few people, asked them questions about their interests, and genuinely listened to their stories. Instead of concentrating on myself, I discovered an incredible connection with others that I hadn't anticipated. Stories flowed, laughter erupted, and suddenly, the nervous knot in my stomach unwound. I realized that the more I invested in who I was speaking to, the more authentic and enjoyable the conversations became. It turned out that by focusing on others, I found my own comfort and joy. Enhancing genuine connections using this method can be quite magical. One evening, I was at a networking event filled with strangers, and instead of worrying about making an impression, I asked people about their passions and shared excitement over their interests. What I found was that when I took the focus off myself, those around me felt empowered to share their stories too. It built a beautiful exchange, an unspoken agreement that we were all just human beings seeking connection. Every time a conversation began to feel forced or awkward, I simply redirected my attention to the other person, allowing for spontaneity to flourish. It creates an environment where we can be vulnerable and open without the intimidating pressure of self-assurance. The next time you find yourself in a social setting, remember to embrace the outward focus. Shift away from self-doubt and zero in on the magic happening in front of you. Listen well, engage genuinely, and allow others to shine meanwhile you enjoy the glow too. The 1-second rule, the secret technique to never freeze up in conversations again. This simple yet effective rule can transform the way you engage with others. When I first learned about the 1-second rule, it felt like discovering a hidden treasure. The idea is straightforward. When you're about to speak to someone, make a move or say something within 1 second of having the thought. This immediacy encourages genuine interaction and helps ease that initial awkwardness that often grips conversations. You see, moments of hesitation can derail a potentially vibrant exchange. But by committing to act instantly, you keep the energy flowing and create a connection right off the bat. My personal realization: the best way to stop being awkward is to stop thinking about being awkward. Self-awareness can feel like a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can help us understand ourselves and make meaningful changes. On the other hand, it sometimes spirals into overthinking, turning us into our own worst critics. When I noticed how I felt in social situations, I became hyper-aware of every gesture, every awkward laugh, and every pause in conversation. Instead of connecting with others, my mind was busy analyzing my every move, leading to more awkwardness. This constant self-scrutiny made me question my actions and second-guess what I would say next. Each moment became a trap of my own making, a cycle of anxiety that held me back from being present and enjoying life. The sheer act of being self-conscious tends to create that uncomfortable space in our interactions. Shifting our focus from how we are perceived to simply enjoying the moment can be freeing. I started practicing mindfulness in social situations. Instead of concentrating on my own performance, I began to truly listen to others. This was a game changer. Engaging more with the people around me took away that nagging self-doubt. I practiced asking questions, laughing at shared jokes, and just flowing with the conversation. Focusing on the common thread of human interaction, shared experiences and mutual interests allowed me to step out of my head. The emphasis shifted from worrying about how I came across to celebrating the moment we were sharing. I found that making genuine connections could dissolve the awkwardness that often felt insurmountable. A simple but effective tip that helped me greatly was this. When you enter a social situation, remind yourself that everyone is just as human as you. We all have our quirks, and it's perfectly fine to be imperfect. Engage actively, be curious about others, and allow yourself to be in the moment without the constant pressure of judgment hanging overhead. Embrace imperfection. Life is too short to be held hostage by anxiety. Instead, let spontaneity and joy lead the way. Chapter 7. The Confidence Feedback Loop. How to Build Unshakable Social Skills. Why confidence isn't a personality trait. It's a skill that compounds over time. Confidence is often thought of as a fixed part of who we are, like our height or the color of our eyes. When we say, "Oh, he's just not a confident person," we're treating confidence as if it's something baked right into someone's identity. But this perspective misses something vital. Confidence isn't a static personality trait. It's a dynamic skill that can be nurtured and developed over time. Think of people who exude confidence in public speaking, but are shy in social settings. They didn't come out of the womb commanding a room. They learned and practiced skills that allowed them to shine when it mattered. This distinction is crucial. By viewing confidence as a skill, we liberate ourselves from the belief that we're either born with it or we're not. As I've navigated my own journey, I've come to realize that confidence grows much in the same way as a muscle. If you don't lift weights, you won't build strength. If you avoid challenging situations, your confidence won't increase. Recognizing that confidence can fluctuate and develop is empowering. It means that rather than resigning ourselves to feeling less than, we can actively engage in practices that bolster our confidence. We can embark on this journey knowing that with each experience, no matter how small, we're laying the groundwork for a more self-assured version of ourselves. When I first started speaking in public, my palms would sweat and my voice would tremble like a leaf in the wind. If I believed confidence was an innate quality, I might have concluded I simply wasn't cut out for it. However, understanding that confidence is a skill transformed my approach. I committed to practice. At first, I practiced in front of a mirror, then with friends, and eventually, I sought opportunities wherever I could find them. Each time I faced my fears and spoke in front of an audience, my confidence grew a little more. This commitment to practice made me realize that building confidence is less about hoping for a change in personality and more about engaging consistently in activities that challenge and stretch me. The beauty of this practice is that it creates a compounding effect. With each step I took, I not only grew more confident in my abilities, but also developed resilience. The fear of failure became less daunting. Instead of avoiding situations that scared me, I started to gravitate toward them, knowing that each encounter was an opportunity for growth. This mindset shift made all the difference. So, what does that mean for you? It means that every time you put yourself out there, whether in a meeting, a social gathering, or any situation that feels uncertain, you're not just facing a challenge. You're skill building. You're in the process of composing a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. When you start viewing confidence as a skill, you open up a repertoire of strategies for growth. Take small, consistent actions that push you out of your comfort zone. Reflect on your experiences, celebrate small victories, and learn from setbacks. Over time, you will see this effort add up, transforming your self-belief and how you approach new challenges. The next time you find yourself in a situation that feels intimidating, remember, you're building a skill, not working against some immovable personality trait. That's a powerful realization, and one that can lead to extraordinary changes in your life. The fake it until you integrate it technique, why pretending to be confident actually works. There's a fascinating psychological principle that suggests by pretending to be confident, you can actually become confident. This notion isn't just a whimsical idea. It's grounded in research that explores how our behaviors and mindset are intertwined. Our brains essentially mirror our actions. When I consciously adopt a confident posture or speak with assurance, my brain begins to interpret these signals as genuine feelings of confidence. This stems from the theory of embodied cognition, where our physical state can influence our mental state. It's like a feedback loop where each step reinforces the next. Initially, it may feel like putting on a costume, but over time, I find that those little acts of confidence start to feel more natural. The nervous butterflies in my stomach begin to settle once I consistently embody that confident persona, leading to authentic self-assurance that I didn't know I could possess. Let's dive into some real-life scenarios that illustrate this technique in action. Picture a job interview. The stakes feel high, and anxiety can easily spiral. Early in my career, I faced similar pressures and struggled to communicate effectively due to my nervousness. Then, I decided to apply the fake it until you integrated approach. I practiced walking into the room with my head held high and my voice steady, regardless of how I felt inside. To my surprise, this simple act made all the difference. I could see how the interviewers responded positively to my confident body language, and as I continued to fake it, I found it increasingly easier to share my ideas and experiences without stumbling over my words. Another example is social gatherings, where I used to shy away from mingling. By adopting a playful mindset and pretending I already knew everyone in the room, my interactions became lively and engaging. It was as if I stumbled upon a secret door to social ease, and what started as an act transformed into a genuine connection with others. You realize that confidence isn't a fixed trait. It's more of a skill that can be developed through practice and self-encouragement. Incorporating this technique into daily life can be as simple as stepping into a conversation with the mindset of being interesting, even if it feels a bit forced at first. By actively choosing to narrate our own stories with a sense of assurance, the conversations flow better, and we forge connections along the way. Experiment with it, whether it's in professional settings or casual gatherings. Allowing yourself to step into a confident version of you can open new doors and possibilities. A real-life case study. How a guy who couldn't even order coffee became socially magnetic in 6 months. My journey from being an anxious wreck at coffee shops to someone who easily sparks conversations in any room is nothing short of extraordinary. It all started on a gloomy Wednesday morning at my favorite cafe. As the barista smiled and took everyone's order, my palms started to sweat and my heart raced. I froze, staring at the menu like it was written in a foreign language. Ordering a simple cup of coffee felt like climbing a mountain. That day marked the beginning of a 6-month transformation filled with small, yet significant, steps that led to confidence I never imagined I could have. I realized something had to change. With each awkward silence and missed opportunity, I grew more determined to break free from my shell. The first step was recognizing that I wasn't alone in feeling this way. I began to read books about social dynamics and watched numerous videos on body language and confidence. I learned about the importance of making eye contact and how gestures could make or break a conversation. Each new piece of knowledge felt like adding another tool to my toolkit. I started practicing these skills in low-pressure situations, chatting with cashiers, asking for recommendations, and even engaging with my neighbors. The more I practiced, the more comfortable I became. Another pivotal moment came when I joined a local club that focused on public speaking. Standing in front of a group and sharing stories forced me to confront my fears head-on. I stumbled at first, tripping over words, but with every meeting, I felt myself growing stronger. I learned to embrace my quirks and find humor in my mistakes. I discovered that others were rooting for me, and the support I received was incredible. By celebrating small wins, like making a new friend or successfully ordering my coffee without sweating, I cultivated a social presence that was magnetic. Each interaction built on the last, and I slowly morphed into someone who didn't just exist in a social space, but thrived in it. Remember, the path to transformation begins with the smallest of steps, and every interaction is a chance to grow. Chapter 8. The Ultimate Test, Pushing Past the Fear Barrier. How to create your own exposure challenges to permanently destroy social fear. Developing a personalized exposure program is about diving into the waters of your social fears. And trust me, the water isn't as cold as it seems. Start by pinpointing the specific situations that induce anxiety for you. Maybe for you, it's speaking up in a group, approaching strangers, or even holding eye contact. Once you've identified these fears, it's time to break them down into manageable pieces. Instead of attempting to face your greatest fear right away, start small. If speaking in public terrifies you, begin by sharing your thoughts in a small, safe gathering with friends. Each small step you take towards confronting your fears can become a building block for your confidence. Imagine each exposure as a stepping stone. You don't jump from the bottom straight to the highest point. You take one step at a time, creating a personalized ladder to your triumph. As you progress, it's essential to pay attention to your journey. Celebrate every little victory, no matter how insignificant it may seem. Did you make eye contact with someone today? Fantastic. Did you initiate a conversation with a colleague? That's worth high-fiving yourself over. Observing these milestones brings you a sense of accomplishment and reinforces your courage to tackle the next challenge. Documenting your feelings and experiences can also be beneficial. Keep a journal where you jot down your emotions before and after each exposure. This simple practice serves not only as a motivational tool, but also as evidence of your growth. Soon enough, you'll notice patterns in your success, and the once intimidating social landscape will seem much more navigable. The magic lies not only in confronting those fears, but also in deriving joy from the journey itself. Embrace the quirks, the awkward moments, and the occasional stumbles. They are all part of your charm. The key takeaway is that every exposure challenge is an opportunity for growth. And the best part is that the more you challenge yourself, the more you discover about your resilience. Remember, every tiny step counts. Be proud of your progress, no matter how small, and keep pushing forward. The worst-case scenario experiment, facing rejection head-on until it no longer controls you. Imagining the worst-case scenarios has a funny way of controlling us. When we see rejection looming on the horizon, it feels like a heavy cloud shadows our heart. But what if I told you that confronting those scenarios might be the very thing that liberates you? The core principle behind this worst-case scenario experiment is simple. By visualizing and facing our deepest fears, we can strip them of their power. Each time we ponder the worst that could happen if we faced rejection, we can begin to dismantle the anxiety associated with it. If our brain can imagine a scenario, it can also learn how to cope with it. As I faced my fears, I realized that this mental exercise didn't just reduce my anxiety. It turned rejection from a looming monster into a manageable inconvenience. Take, for instance, my journey of walking into networking events. The thought of being rejected, ignored, or judged by strangers would leave my palms sweaty and my stomach in knots. But I decided to embrace this worst-case scenario approach. I vividly imagined myself walking into a crowded room, only to be met with blank stares or polite nods that felt unenthusiastic. I envisioned my heart sinking, my confidence crumbling, and yes, even walking out in humiliation. The more I pictured this, the more absurd it felt. With every cringeworthy scenario I played out in my mind, I started to laugh. The reality is that no one was waiting to judge me as harshly as I judged myself. In reality, most people are too busy worrying about their own impressions to analyze ours. By desensitizing myself to rejection, I found freedom, not just in the ability to approach events, but in the joy of making connections without the weight of fear dragging me down. This journey was not just a single moment of bravery, but a series of small experiments. I began pushing my boundaries in everyday interactions, whether asking a stranger for directions, initiating a conversation at a coffee shop, or pitching ideas at work without the fear of dismissal. Each experience became a mini worst-case scenario where I was met with varying degrees of acceptance or rejection. I soon found that the rejections stung less and less. The thrill of daring to connect outweighed the fear of being turned away. So, how can you start your own worst-case scenario experiment? Begin with small, safe confrontations. Envision the worst that could happen, allow yourself to feel that momentary panic, and then take a step anyway. You'll soon learn that rejection is just a part of life, not the end of the world. And with each step, you'll find that the power of your fears starts to fade, replaced by the exhilarating freedom to be your true self. How I transformed from someone who feared rejection to someone who thrives on challenge. Once upon a time, the thought of rejection sent shivers down my spine. It loomed over me like a heavy cloud, ready to rain down doubt and insecurity. I was the person who avoided asking a question in class, afraid of stumbling over my words or hearing laughter from my peers. My life revolved around a strict adherence to comfort, which kept me from experiencing so many enriching opportunities. However, over time, a gradual evolution took place. I began to view challenges not as threats, but as invitations to grow. I realized that rejection was not a reflection of my worth, but rather a stepping stone toward resilience. Learning to embrace challenges helped me flip the narrative in my mind. I started pursuing activities that terrified me, like public speaking, which at first made my palms sweat and my heart race. But each time I faced my fears, I found not only my confidence growing, but also a sense of freedom that I had never known. Instead of my heart sinking with the fear of rejection, I began to feel a surge of excitement at the prospect of pushing my boundaries. Through this journey, I adopted several strategies that allowed me to thrive amidst social pressures and uncertainties. One of the most effective tools I discovered was reframing my mindset. I learned to ask myself empowering questions whenever I faced a challenge. Instead of fixating on what could go wrong or what others might think, I started to ask, what can I learn from this? This simple shift in perspective transformed my outlook, leading me to view obstacles as opportunities for personal growth. Additionally, I surrounded myself with a supportive community that encouraged risk-taking. Whether it was joining clubs or engaging in group activities, the more I placed myself in environments that fostered connection and acceptance, the more I felt energized. I realized that rejection often stems not from me, but from external circumstances and perceptions. By acknowledging this, I began to detach my self-worth from the opinions of others, allowing me to take enthusiastic steps into the unknown. As I delved deeper into this transformative process, I also began to practice self-compassion. Understanding that it's okay to stumble and falter helped me be kinder to myself in times of challenge. Instead of spiraling into negative thoughts after rejection, I allowed myself to acknowledge my feelings without judgment. I would remind myself that these emotions were part of the journey. Engaging in reflective practices like journaling further helped me articulate my experiences and recognize my progress over time. Each small success reinforced that I was capable of navigating challenges. In that revelation lies a powerful tip. When facing fears, document your progress. Whether through journaling, creating vision boards, or simply noting down your achievements, tracking your growth can serve as a motivating reminder of how far you've come. Embracing rejection and turning it into a catalyst for growth was a journey, but one that has empowered me to not just thrive, but to seek out challenges with a sense of curiosity and excitement. Conclusion. Welcome to the other side, the end of your old self. The final shift, your shyness is dead. Shyness has often felt like a cloak I wore, heavy and constricting, as if it were a defining trait lodged deep inside my identity. But today, I celebrate the shedding of that cloak. The journey through this book has unearthed a vibrant and confident self that had long been hidden beneath layers of hesitation and self-doubt. Embracing the end of shyness isn't just about stepping out into the world. It's about recognizing that I have the power to redefine who I am. The timid whispers of my past do not define my future. Instead, I have discovered the strength to walk into rooms with my head held high, to initiate conversations, and to express my opinions without fear. Recognizing the transformation I've achieved brings an electrifying sense of empowerment. Each chapter, each exercise, and every moment of self-reflection contributed to a monumental shift within me. I now own this journey, acknowledging the courage it took to face my fears and embrace the unknown. It's exhilarating to realize that I'm not just a collection of my previous insecurities, but a complex, evolving individual who has all the tools necessary to thrive. The journey doesn't end here. Rather, it's an ongoing process of growth and exploration. Embracing this newfound confidence means actively participating in life's myriad experiences, knowing that I deserve to be seen and heard. As I step forward, I carry with me the essence of this transformation, a vibrant reminder that the timid version of myself is no longer in control. This thrilling adventure is just beginning, and I can't wait to dive deeper. To keep this momentum, a practical tip is to set small, achievable goals that push your comfort boundaries. Whether it's striking up a conversation with a stranger or sharing an idea in a meeting, each little win builds a stronger foundation of confidence. Celebrate these moments and let them empower you to pursue larger challenges without losing sight of your progress. Each step taken is a testament to your transformation, so embrace them wholeheartedly. A challenge to the reader, your first mission to prove to yourself that you're free. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast landscape, the sun rising before you, symbolizing new beginnings. This is your moment. This is your call to action. You have the power to take that first bold step into the unknown, to shake off the shackles of doubt, fear, and hesitation. Each day, life offers countless opportunities to embrace freedom, but it's your choice to seize them. Recognize that freedom isn't just an abstract concept. It's a tangible reality waiting for you to grasp. The journey won't always be easy, but it is necessary. The thrill of embarking on an adventure, discovering your capacity for strength and resilience, begins now. So, what do you say? Are you ready to plunge into this journey of self-discovery and liberation? Let your heart race at the thought of possibilities as you stand firm, ready to face whatever lies ahead. To fortify this newfound confidence, begin with small, achievable challenges that push you just beyond your comfort zone. Try speaking up in a meeting where you usually stay quiet. Your voice has power, and you might just surprise yourself with the insights you share. Another idea is to make an impromptu decision. Take a different route home, or try a restaurant you've never been to before. Each of these actions is like a tiny pebble dropped into the pond of your bravery. Let the ripples expand as you realize that with every challenge, you build more confidence and reinforce the belief that you are capable of much more than you ever imagined. Remember, every step, no matter how small, contributes to your liberation. Celebrate those little victories because they are a testament to your willingness to embrace freedom. In the quest for personal freedom, it's essential to remind yourself that discomfort often precedes growth. Embrace the uncertainty as part of the journey, knowing that it leads to expansive possibilities. Keep a journal to track your experiences. Writing down your thoughts can clarify your fears and goals and help you reflect on your progress. Engage with life deeply, and don't shy away from exploring different perspectives. This adventure is yours, and it thrives in the moments when you dare to step outside the familiar. Every challenge is a step toward your liberation, so take that step with both excitement and courage. What life feels like when shyness is no longer part of your identity. Shedding the weight of shyness feels like stepping out into a bright, open sky after being locked away in a dark room for years. The liberation is intoxicating and joyous. Imagine the ease of approaching new people, the laughter spilling from your lips without hesitation. Each conversation no longer feels like a tightrope walk. Instead, it's like a dance, spontaneous and free-flowing. You no longer wear the heavy cloak of self-doubt, and instead, you embrace the vulnerability that comes with being your true self. The walls you built, once meant to protect you, now feel stifling and unnecessary. You realize that the world doesn't judge you as harshly as you feared. Embracing confidence does not mean becoming someone else. It's about uncovering the real you that had been hidden away. Every smile exchanged and every story shared becomes a triumph, a celebration of your newfound openness. As you journey towards this vibrant life, allow yourself to envision the connections that await. Picture moments spent laughing with a newfound friend or sharing insights with a fellow traveler. Imagine the thrill of experiencing life fully, attending events, and engaging in conversations that spark your curiosity. The possibilities feel limitless once you've cast off the limitations that shyness imposed. Every interaction becomes a chance to build bridges, to discover common ground, and to experience genuine camaraderie. It is exhilarating to think about how many adventures lie ahead, waiting to be embraced with open arms. The beauty of human connection unfolds before you, filled with stories, laughter, and the surprising intimacy that can blossom between strangers. By inviting these connections into your life, you're not only enriching your own experience, but also giving others the gift of your unique presence. As you navigate this exciting chapter, hold on to the idea that life is an ever-evolving journey. Each day presents a fresh opportunity to step further into your true self, to connect with others, and to create experiences that resonate deeply. A practical tip to keep this momentum going: make a habit of regular social interactions, even if they feel uncomfortable at first. Start small by saying hello to someone in line or striking up a casual conversation with a coworker. Each small step reinforces your confidence and propels you further away from the shadows of shyness. Embrace the moments of uncertainty as part of the adventure, because they often lead to the most rewarding connections. If you've made it this far, something inside you has already shifted. You've seen the illusions that kept you trapped, the mental loops that reinforce shyness, and the practical ways to break free. But here's the truth. Reading about transformation is not the same as living it. You are now standing at the edge of two paths. One leads back to old habits, to hesitation, to waiting for confidence to magically appear. The other? It leads to action, to challenge, to stepping into discomfort and realizing that you can handle far more than you ever imagined. So, here's your first mission. Starting today, do one thing you would have avoided in the past. Just one. Start a conversation. Make eye contact. Speak up in a group. And when your brain screams, "This is scary," smile and remind yourself, "I'm rewiring my mind. I'm choosing the path of confidence." The old you is gone. The new you is waiting. Now go meet them. This has been the end of Shyness, written by Mindful Literary. Thank you for listening, and here's to your new life of confidence and connection.